Hey, everybody. Welcome to Odd and Untold, the podcast where we talk about all things strange and spooky. And it is the day after Christmas. And I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah. Hope you all got to spend time with your families and you all got lots of cool presents and everybody got what they wanted from Santa for Christmas. Uh, and all your Hanukkah presents were great. And yeah, it's the day after Christmas. So I thought I'd do some Bigfoot sightings on or around Christmas. So there's four stories tonight, and all of these take place either on Christmas or like right before, right after Christmas. So similar to our Thanksgiving Bigfoot sightings show. And so this will be a little bit of a shorter episode tonight, but I didn't want to leave you guys hanging this week. I know we did our Christmas horror movie special with John, Volume 3, that published on Tuesday, the 23rd. So there was that right before Christmas, and this is right after Christmas. So get a little bit of a Christmas book ending here. So without further ado, let us get into some cool Christmas Bigfoot stories. All right, so our first story comes to us from British Columbia up in Canada. I haven't touched British Columbia yet. I really want to. There's tons of sightings from up there, obviously. So this was submitted by witness Erica Spink, and it's two motorists sighting of a Sasquatch 4 miles south of Silverton, British Columbia, on Highway 6 near Slocan Lake. And this happened on December 25th of 2020, so Christmas Day, 2020. The location details, it was a clearing across from a driveway on 8651 Highway 6A. And there are some longitude, latitude coordinates here. I will link to these stories if you guys want to go check these out. Nearest town is Silverton, BC, and nearest road, 8651 Highway 6A, and observed. And she says, "We were returning home last night, and two members in our vehicle said, 'Look, is that a bear?' The person in the front seat saw what looked like a huge man standing on two legs. It bent over and fell to four legs. The person in the back saw the animal on the four legs. They both say it was not a bear. This was yesterday. It is winter, and bears here in the interior of the Kootenays are hibernating. We live nearby. We got home, and all four of us decided to go back and look for tracks. We went and filmed and took photos of a whole bunch of massive tracks that look like they are from a bipedal animal. We have this video and photos and would like someone to look at them. We live near Silverton, British Columbia, in Canada. We've also been walking in the woods near our house, and one time I saw a structure/setup of trees that looked deliberately placed in different crisscross arrangements. I also heard deep resonating sounds one night right after we first moved into our new property near Silverton. It sounded part human, part animal. So that's interesting. Also noticed, one person felt a presence in the woods when we went back to look at the tracks. We felt like we were being watched as we examined and videoed the tracks. Other witnesses, there were two people who saw it, and then the four of us returned to see and take photos of the tracks. Other stories, yes, there have been many sightings of Sasquatches in BC. We have felt like there are Sasquatch markers on our property, 8651 Highway 6A. We would like someone to look at the video and the photos. This was just past 9 p.m. It was dark and snowy, and there were no lights as we were in the wilderness. The environment was a clearing out of the woods near the side of the highway. And there is a follow-up investigation here by BFRO investigator Matt Moneymaker, as my dad calls him, Matt Pennypincher. All in good fun, Matt. And Matt says, I spoke with the two eyewitnesses on the phone. The sighting happened yesterday, so he's speaking to them on the 26th. The witnesses said it was very large, man-like, standing on two legs before it bent over and fell onto all fours, as Sasquatches will do on occasion. The witnesses saw it from behind, but got a good look at it as they passed by. At first glance, they assumed it was a bear, but then realized it was not a bear. Very shortly after the sighting, four people returned to the spot to look for tracks in the snow. The snow was a foot deep to knee deep, so really deep snow. The group found the tracks and recorded them with photos and video. The video will be added to this report in a few days. Spoiler, the video was never added to this report. The tracks were noticeably deeper in the snow than the tracks of the people looking for them, so it's implying that much heavier. The tracks were bipedal in pattern and in a fairly straight line, except at points where they were side by side, as if the creature was stopped and standing still. I spoke with the property owner on the phone also. She mentioned hearing howls near the property at night recently. I played for her the recording of the Ohio howl. She said it was a match to what she heard right outside her cabin, only a few hundred feet from where the sighting occurred yesterday. I'll throw those up here too so you guys can hear what the Ohio howls are. So freaky sounds, I don't know what those are, but it doesn't sound like anything that occurs naturally in the wild. So, there's some maps here just so you can kind of see basically where this occurred, and it zooms all the way in. Uh, so this is an interesting one to me. I'm always a little skeptical of the Bigfoot reports that are on all fours because everybody wants to say this was not a misidentification. I know what I saw. But then you're saying you saw something on all fours, which sounds like a bear. And I understand the bears are in hibernation at this time of year up there. Even here, they're in hibernation, but bears can be awake. Just it's not like a switch and all the bears just fall asleep and hibernate. They can be up, they can be moving around. So maybe this was a bear in distress. They say it was dark. They say they didn't really get a good look at it. It was up on 2 feet and then down on all fours. It's very hard for non-trained people to tell if tracks are bipedal or not. Looking at them in the snow can warp and distort, and it's not really a good medium for capturing footprints. So I'm always a little skeptical of that sort of thing. Again, I'm not saying they saw a bear. I'm just saying that the Bigfoot on all fours, walking on four legs, why? These are bipedal creatures. And it just, if we want science to accept that, I don't understand, how we can say if something was on all fours that, oh, it definitely wasn't a bear. It just, I struggle with that. And again, I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm not saying Bigfoot can't walk on all fours. I just struggle with accepting it a little bit more than something that somebody says, hey, I saw this thing and it ran up a hill on 2 legs, or walked across the road on 2 legs, or it stepped across a highway on 2 legs. Clearly not a bear. This, I think there's a little bit of wiggle room to say maybe it was a bear. I would like to believe that these people who are looking at it and saying, no, we saw this thing, it was not a bear, I'd like to believe them. But I think whereas some stories I'm like 100% convinced they saw something weird, this one I have, a little bit of skeptical doubt that maybe they just saw a bear or something else. It was a quick glimpse. It's dark. They're driving. They're not getting a lot of detail here. So not sure what to make of this one, but it happened on Christmas and they saw something, and bears are supposed to be hibernating. So, again, I do think like if you see a big bear, and up there they have grizzlies, they have, a bigger bear than we have here in most of the United States, which is just black bear. I think most people will be able to tell, hey, that's human shaped or that's bear shaped, even with a fleeting glimpse. But like I said, I'm leaving a little bit of wiggle room there because I have to. That's just who I am. So let me know what you guys think about this one. Christmas Day sighting. So very, very cool. Okay, story number 2, submitted by witness Sonia Adams. And this is, couple observed a Sasquatch yesterday while hunting deer on Eglin Air Force Base. So this is from Okaloosa County, Florida. This happened on December 26th, so the day after Christmas. So, 5 years ago to the day. This was in Okaloosa County. Location details: go up 85 north and turn down and off the road towards Duke Field. Once you take that exit, turn right at the light, and immediately on your right, take that turn and you come to the Eglin hunting grounds. Go to Jackson South. Nearest town is Crestview. Nearest road is 85 north. And observed, she says, my husband and I were sitting in the woods hunting in northern Florida, about an hour from Alabama. We were sitting in the brush and heard a loud crunch, thinking it was a big buck, when my husband and I turned to look about 80 yards out, and we see a massive human-like figure that was covered in medium, longish brown hair, looking from behind a large oak tree at the end of a bottom, towards the entrance of a branch head. About 30 minutes later, we heard another loud crunch, and right behind a pine tree, we looked, and another 80 yards out, heading towards the bottom, we see the same large, hairy human figure turning and heading deeper into the creek bottom. So they noticed this overly loud crunching. It was just her and her husband. They've heard of other stories out in Panama City. This was around 4:30 p.m., so later in the day. It's December, late December, starting to get dark, a little twilight left in the night sky, perhaps. And again, we have a follow-up investigation by Matt Moneymaker. There were 2 witnesses. They live in Niceville, Florida. Sounds like a nice town. Nice. Uh, I spoke with the wife. They were hunting white-tailed deer in the Jackson South portion of Eglin Air Force Base on a slope above Pine Log Creek. They were wearing hunter orange vests, sitting and facing each other when they heard a big crunch, like something large stepping on a brush. Her husband thought it was a buck before it came into view about 60 to 80 yards away. She saw his face react as if seeing something frightening, the husband. He grabbed her shirt and directed her attention behind her in the direction of the sound. They both saw the figure as it was looking at them. She said it was dark brown in color, not black, so there's a difference there, and seemed to stand over 7 feet tall on two legs. It was shaped like a man, but covered with hair. The couple turned to look toward each other briefly. That is when the figure stepped out of their view. They continued to sit quietly, though scared. Several minutes later, they heard another crunch in a different direction. They saw it again briefly as it was heading toward the creek bottom where the brush is thicker. Before the couple left the area, they saw two does, female deer, approach them in a hurry as if fleeing from something. So here's the location of the Air Force Base. So you can see it's kind of in the panhandle of Florida here. It's to the west of Tallahassee. And I'll keep scrolling down to zoom in. Again, I'm linking all these stories in the description below so you guys can find these and get the coordinates if you want to go look at them. So this one, I would say, is a better sighting. You have two hunters. There's probably still light in the sky this time of year. Not much, but still going to be some light. And they see this human-like figure. They're expecting a buck. They're expecting a big deer. They're not thinking Bigfoot. They're out hunting. They're being quiet. They hear something crunching and coming in towards them, and they're expecting, cool, we're going to be able to shoot a buck. And it's this human-like figure, dark brown hair. And then they see it again. But this thing is looking at them from behind a tree. And we hear this a lot. I feel like a lot of the stories I've been talking about lately, there's this creature kind of like peeking around a tree, looking at them, sort of checking them out, thinking that it's hidden, but it's big and it's making tons of noise, and it's 7 or 8 feet tall, and but it's cute that they try to hide. And then it just walks off into the brush. I'm a little confused about what they did for that half hour from the time they first saw this thing, and then they see it again, and it turns and heads deeper into the creek bottom. I'm guessing on two legs. They don't say specifically here, but again, you would think a human-like figure. They see it walking off into the brush. They're thinking Bigfoot. It's not a bear. It's not another hunter. And they talk about how they were wearing, the blaze colors, so they stand out. Orange vests, so that other hunters wouldn't shoot them. And if this figure they saw was another hunter, very foolish, because you're walking around without the blaze colors, you're going to get shot. So even if somebody says, hey, look, that looks like a person, they don't know. If they see something from a distance, it's moving between the trees, it could be a buck. You have an inexperienced hunter. I mean, most hunters, I've taken hunting training, and you are taught that you do not pull that trigger until you absolutely 100% know what you're shooting at, because you don't want to hit a person. But some people, they get antsy, they get jumpy, they're not trained properly, they see something, they get a little excited, they shoot, and it's a person. So you have to be really careful. So again, if this is some guy out there on the day after Christmas walking around without colors on, very strange. So good sighting, and I would say this is probably most likely a Bigfoot. All right, story number 3 for tonight. This is an anonymous witness. Snowmobiler observes a large figure cross the trail behind him near Traverse City. And this is from Grand Traverse, Michigan, December 26th of 2013. So we're going back a few years, but another December 26th, day after Christmas. State is Michigan, as I said. Location details. I've described the location as best I can. Follow snowmobile trail from Rudolph Ranch to Traverse City and turn around at the first road crossing after entering highway clearing. Nearest town is Traverse City. Nearest road left from Rudolph Ranch, where we rented the snowmobiles. So observed. And he says, my wife and I rented a snowmobile for the day after Christmas, December 26, 2012. Up there it said 2013, so maybe a typo. From Rudolph Ranch near Traverse City, Michigan. Our first exploration on the trip were the trails from the ranch to Traverse City. We traveled through some forest to a high wire clearing that we felt had too much rugged terrain to continue. We came to the first road in the high wire clearing and decided to turn around. I was driving and my wife was riding in the passenger seat. After turning around, I looked across two hills from which we had just come and noticed what appeared on first impression to be a cross-country skier 200 yards away coming down the second hill away from us. Now, I'm thinking he's thinking cross-country skier because of the arm sway, because you're kind of, pumping your arms as you cross-country ski. Immediately, many things bothered me about this cross-country skier. First, it was male and it was extremely tall, maybe 8 to 9 feet in height. It was very male because of its wide shoulder and slim waist shape. So females tend to be more like hourglass shaped, and men, especially if they're like muscular, they're sort of broader at the shoulders and skinnier at the waist. They're more of like a triangle, whereas women are kind of hourglass. Second, he appeared to traverse the steep downhill slope like a downhill skier, attacking the slope in parallel skier motions, but in very long footsteps instead of sliding skis in a downhill parallel motion. No skis were noticed. Third, and most puzzling, was that the figure was dark, dirty, rusty red from top of the head to bottom of the foot, except for the face, which was jet black. Finally, the figure appeared very unnatural in movement. The entire sighting lasted a total of maybe 5 seconds. As I drove back over the area where I saw the figure, I looked intently for cross-country ski tracks. I found none. We also did not come across a skier, and the area at the bottom of the hill dumped into a very thick wooded area blocked by a barbed wire fence. At the time, I thought about stopping and looking for footprints, but was afraid of asking my wife if she saw what I thought I had just seen, so I moved on. So he's afraid of ridicule. Whatever I saw bothered me all day. Later in the evening, I asked my wife if she noticed the cross-country skier, which I had seen. She had not seen the skier. When I walked her through the event and told her that I think I saw a Bigfoot, she just laughed and continues to laugh at me today. So he's being ridiculed. The sighting has continued to bother me over a month later. I'm convinced that what I saw was too tall, was not clothed naturally, and moved too unnaturally to be a human. Also noticed, none. My wife was there but did not notice the figure in the 5-second window. He says, I am from Washington State and on a contract for GM in Michigan. I have heard of sightings like this in Washington, but had no idea of the possibility of similar sightings in Michigan. So, I think a lot of people, if you're not into cryptozoology, if you're not into Bigfoot, you know of Bigfoot. I mean, just about everybody's heard of Bigfoot, but when you hear of Bigfoot, you think Pacific Northwest, you think Canada, you think California, Oregon, Washington. You're not thinking the other states so much. This was about 10 a.m., overcast skies, clear weather, visibility over 1 mile. So an interesting sighting, and I'll get back into some analysis of this because I do have thoughts. And there's a follow-up investigation report by BFRO investigator Kim Fleming, who says, the witness shared an amazingly detailed account of his experience. He described what he first thought was a cross-country skier crossing the trail behind them. As he stared at the figure, he noticed that if it were a skier, it would be male due to its body shape, very broad at the shoulders and narrowing significantly at the waist. He was also very tall, like Shaquille O'Neal size, to quote. The witness noticed that the figure must have been wearing a ski hat due to a cone-like shape of the head. Interesting. What seemed strange was everything on the figure was wearing was the same color. His hat, coat, gloves, and pants were all a dark, rusty red glistening in the light. Where their eyes and nose would have been was very dark to black. He said, I thought it was a skier at first, but then I didn't see any skis. Maybe a snowshoer? Nope, no snowshoes. Then it was gone. While trying to rationalize what he saw, many thoughts went through his mind. He thought it would be very strange for someone to just be walking around in the area. He realized at that point he must have seen a Sasquatch. The witness resides in Seattle, Washington, and is an avid fly fisherman who's very familiar with wildlife sightings, including grizzly bears. He says, this was not a bear. It was bipedal. It walked upright like a man, taking huge strides. But its arms were long, hands falling at or below the knee. The witness watched the figure cross the trail and disappear over a ravine into a cedar swamp. The witness had to travel back over the area where the figure crossed, but he did not want to stop and look for tracks. His wife was on the snowmobile with him, but she did not see the figure cross the trail, so people can be looking in different directions. The witness did not tell his wife what he thought he saw until later that evening, and he has only shared this incident with 2 other people. And there's 2 photos here of a possible structure they think they found while investigating. And if you've watched my show before, you know I'm not really big on tree structures. Again, I don't say they're definitely not Bigfoot. I just think there are many other rational explanations to explain this. I mean, this just looks kind of random to me. I mean, and some people are going to say, no, it's definitely like all these trees converging, but things can happen in nature sometimes that look intentional that are not. So we have to be very careful. If we're not seeing these creatures making this structure, we can't say Bigfoot definitely did it. It's interesting. You throw it on the pile of, you know, other evidence that may come into play later, circumstantial evidence. I don't know what you would call it, but it's not something that you can definitely attribute to Bigfoot. This one is interesting to me because, again, you have someone who's an outdoorsman who knows what bears look like, sees this thing, is not thinking Bigfoot. Immediately, his thought is, oh, there's a skier up there, cross-country skier. You know, this guy taking big strides. And then he's like, well, there's no skis, so maybe he's got snowshoes. No snowshoes. And then it's kind of gone. The second thing is that it's all the same color. It's like this dark, rusty red. And anybody who sees skiers, they wear colorful clothing. And that's for many different reasons. I mean, one, just winter gear is just, it tends to be more colorful. You see a lot of blues and reds. But it also helps, you know, if someone is lost in the snow, those colors stand out. They pop. If you're wearing black or brown, you're going to blend in with trees and logs and the rest of the terrain. So you want to wear bright colors. So that will stand out in the snow. So the conical head, it could have been a hat, but again, who's going to wear this like really dark outfit to go skiing? And it just doesn't really make sense. The other thing that I like about this story is that he's talking about something that it was bothering him. And I always say this, like, your brain will tell you when there's something wrong. You may not know what's wrong, but your brain does. Your brain sees things, it experiences things. You may not be able to put your finger on exactly what's wrong, but your brain will tell you. Your brain will send up little alarms saying that's not right. That's not what it's supposed to be. You're thinking that's a person. It's not a person. What is it? I don't know, but it's not what you think you're seeing. So I thought that was really interesting. And his wife is just goofing on him, as tends to happen, and that's sad. So I feel for him, but he has this sighting. She didn't see it, sadly, but a good sighting. I think, he's seeing something that's weird, and he's not thinking Bigfoot at first. What was it? So what do you guys think of this one? Okay, so our last story for the evening comes to us again from Florida. This is Hernando County. Family views something standing in a field in the Chassahowitzka wildlife area. I hope I said that right. My pronunciations can widely vary from correct to wildly incorrect. And this happened on December 22nd of 2016, so a few days before Christmas. And location details: approximately 50 to 75 yards on the south side of Cortez Boulevard, just before the intersection at Pine Island Drive, heading west on Cortez Boulevard. Nearest town is Wekiwachi. Again, hope I'm saying that right. Nearest road, Cortez Boulevard, Pine Island Drive. And observed: while on vacation, we were on our way to watch the sunset. My daughter pointed out her window and said, "Look, what is that?" My son sat to her left and I to her right. All three of us looked out the window to see what appeared to be an 8 to 10 foot tall, hairy being. It was standing slightly turned, so we were looking at its left shoulder and back. It was very hairy, and we could definitely make out a head and shoulders. All three of us had a definite, clear, unobstructed visual for 7 to 10 seconds. It was light brown to tan in color. About 45 minutes later, we were on our way back, and it was gone. So quick sighting, but they saw definitely something. 3 witnesses total, 11 passengers in the vehicle total. Only 3 saw the creature. All were driving to the beach to watch the sunset. She's aware of a few other stories on the BFRO site in this area. This was approximately 5 p.m. It was a clear sunny day, around 65 degrees, light wind, Florida, so it's going to be a little bit warmer. Open field of 3 to 4 foot tall grass / swampland with wooded area nearby. There's a local seafood restaurant on the opposite side of the intersection. So skunk ape, Florida Bigfoot. Interesting. And we have a follow-up investigation report here by BFRO investigator BG Martin, who says the witness and her 2 children were in the back of a passenger van with 8 other passengers. She was able to quickly pick out and see what her daughter was pointing out because it was clearly visible in the middle of a field, 50 to 75 yards from the road. There weren't any bushes or trees nearby. As a result, it made the object more distinct in a field of knee-high grass. The object was on the south side of the road, and the setting sun was shining on it. So there's light. They're seeing this thing. It's standing up. It's taller than the grass. not the middle of the woods, so you're not getting, trees and bushes. It's just obviously there. The three witnesses were able to continue watching the object through the back window as the van made a right turn to go north onto Pine Island Drive from Cortez Boulevard. The driver slowed to 5 to 10 miles an hour to make the turn. For the 7 to 10 seconds that it was in sight, it didn't move. When they came back 45 minutes later, after watching the sunset, the object was gone. So it's not a tree stump. The mother didn't recall if there was a path of something going through the grass leading to or away from where the object was viewed. She was more focused on locating the spot where they had seen the object originally. But then the object could have taken a route paralleling the road, and a path wouldn't have been apparent from the road. The object was light brown to tan and had hair that was 3 to 4 inches long. She described it as very hairy. The amount of hair and its size stood out, and the likelihood that it was a person seemed unlikely to her. The distinct features of shoulders and a head were something that was apparent. The head was rounded off and there was no neck. So again, we hear that a lot, just kind of a head on top of shoulders. She described the shoulders as being wide as 3 or 4 of its heads. So you can imagine that. From the angle, about 10 o'clock, they were viewing it from, they couldn't see any definition of the legs, arms, or hands to the side. The daughter noted that the hair appeared like there were highlights in the hair. So, or maybe the sun just glinting off of it. Who knows? The mother had the impression that whatever it was had its back to them. The 3 family members felt that they were observing weighed about 600 pounds. The field that the unknown object was in is a field that will fill with water in high tide. There are water moccasins and diamondback rattlesnakes and alligators that inhabit the Chesapeake wildlife area. For someone to walk through a field in this location would be very risky. The field wasn't submerged in water when the witness viewed the subject. So it sounds like a dangerous area. I mean, even though there's no water, you have, snakes, poisonous snakes. The witness couldn't explain why she thought it was 8 to 10 feet tall. There wasn't anything nearby to use as a size reference other than the grass it was seen in, which was knee height, about 2 feet. The road surface is 4 to 5 feet higher than the field, and it was viewed from 50 to 75 yards away. The witness has been a nurse for 24 years, and her daughter is 15 years old, and the son is 13. They were in the area to visit family and the local tradition of watching the sunset. The previous day, it was overcast, and they wanted to see the sunset before they left the next day to go back home to the Midwest. I feel that they saw something that wasn't a tree, bush, or some type of vegetation. I agree with that because it would have still been there when they got back. There are bear in the area, but they're black, and when bears stand, they don't have shoulders, and they aren't 8 to 10 feet tall. So I'll throw the picture up there again. They're very just rectangular shape. There's no sort of curves or there's no shoulders. There's no triangular shape. There's no hourglass shape. There are no shoulders. The Chesapeake wildlife area is 38 square miles in size, and the majority of the wildlife area is inhospitable to humans. There are many places in the wildlife area that something could live and go unnoticed. All right, so this is another one that I'm kind of on the fence about. They're clearly seeing something, and it seems to be a living thing because it wasn't there on the way back. So it's not a tree stump. It's not a tree. It's not a bush. It's something living, clearly, because it was there and then it was gone. So it moved. So not a stationary object. There are bear in the area, but again, bears don't have the shoulders. They're very sort of just straight up and down. There's no curvature really there. You're not going to see a head on top of broad shoulders. That being said, they didn't get a very good look at it. So they're, 50 to 75 yards away, which is not close. That's almost a full football field. And so they're not seeing detail. They're seeing some color. They're seeing almost like a silhouette of this thing out in the field. So they're seeing something. Maybe it could have been a bear, just if it had its neck bent and they're at a weird angle. They're driving. The sun is kind of hitting it. It's a quick sighting. I don't know what to make of this one. This one, they have eyes on it, but they're not getting a very good look at it. So they saw something. I will give them that. But was it a person? Was it a bear? Was it definitely Bigfoot? I can't say for sure. Again, sometimes I'm like, this is a good story. This is a clear sighting. They saw Bigfoot, or they're lying. This one, I think we can accept the possibility that there's some sort of misidentification here, that they think they saw something that was maybe bigger. Again, there was no frame of reference. The follow-up investigator says she couldn't even say why she thought it was as tall as she thought it was. She's just estimating. And people are notoriously bad about guessing distance and height and all of these things. So not sure what to make of that one, but this one I'm a little bit iffy on. So let me know what you guys think about this one. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap up this episode of Bigfoot sightings on or around Christmas. And like I said, hope you're all having a wonderful holiday season. Next year, we're into 2026. So I will see you in the new year. And in the meantime, if you guys have questions, comments, you want me to do a story in your area, shoot me an email, jason@ununtold.com. I'm happy to speak with you. And until next time, everybody, question everything. Question these stories. Some of them are clearly they're seeing a bipedal hairy person. Others, a little hard to say. They're seeing something. They're clearly seeing something, but it could have been a bear. If it's on four legs, maybe it was a bear. You know, you're seeing something from a distance. Maybe it was a bear. The other ones, you're seeing a tall, hairy, bipedal thing. So that's probably Bigfoot. But we have to question these things. Again, not to disparage the witnesses, but just to get the answers, just to get to the truth, which is what we all want. So yeah, until next time, everybody, embrace the weird. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I will see you in 2026. Rock and roll, everybody.